Hello and happy Halloween edition of the Filmocracy podcast. We are again joined by the venerable John Fitzgerald. John, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm excited for Halloween. It's a
This
big
is
deal in this house.
my least favorite type of holiday because I don't like being scared, but costumes are fun. Although I will say that costumes have really, over the past 30 years, gone down the rabbit hole in terms of, at least for females, I think, in the wrong direction.
Yeah, I've got kids, so I have all kinds of crazy stories about costumes, and yeah, it's a big deal. Our house has skeletons everywhere and spider webs, and
What is the best or your favorite costume that you've worn or
that
made?
I've worn.
Hmm.
Ooh, it's really close between when I was in high school. I was a high school cheerleader,
That's how you
which
get
was
to the
kind of
girls.
funny. Yeah, I had makeup on. I had the whole 9 yards. That was a good one. That was a good one.
But if
And
you were
then
actually a cheerleader, you can't wear your cheerleader costume in for Halloween. That's like an actual. It's like if you're a
no,
police officer and you're a
I
police.
wasn't a cheerleader.
Oh,
I was dating a cheerleader.
I see.
So I
Okay,
wore I wore one of their uniforms. So
got
I
it.
look like a girl, Paul. I was a girl.
Got it.
I was a
That makes
foxy
more
girl,
sense.
but I was a girl. That was one, and then the other one that was pretty fun was I was a crayon.
I like it.
Yeah, it was a good costume. It was actually a hand me down. My parents had it. I'm like, oh, what am I gonna do this year? And they said, well, we got these crayons, and they were really cool. You just kind of wore this crayon suit, and then there's like a cone for the head for the point. That was a good one.
Well, my favorite costume that I wore was I was the Gulf oil spill in the year that they had the oil spill, and I wore all black. I had a hat that said BP on it, and I
Uh,
had a bunch of stuffed animals that I spray painted black, and I pinned them to myself along with some trash. Um, and I was the oil spill. But
that's
I did
good.
that. I was in Texas when I did that, and people didn't find it that funny.
No, no.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway,
it's fun. I don't know if I'll dress up this year. I have to have some skin cancer removed. So I was thinking what I might do is you remember Chinatown, Jake Giddy's. There's that scene where Polanski takes the knife and slits his nose. So I'm gonna have bandages all over my nose, and I've got a fedora. So I was thinking I could just go with the bandage, throw the fedora on, maybe a jacket, and be the Jack Nicholson characters. What's his name? Giddy's.
or take it a step further and be the Invisible Man. Just bandage your
I
face.
was gonna do the mummy thing, right? Where you just cover the whole thing, but I don't like having my whole face covered. It's
Yeah.
weird.
Well, speaking of the mummy, we are going to count down our top favorite horror movies, which was very difficult for me because I hate horror movies, but here we are. So, why don't we start with should we alternate? John,
Yeah,
maybe
let's alternate. Yeah, you do one, then I'll do one.
actually,
And let me just say this: like I know we're calling it horror because everybody's talking about horror and Halloween and all that, but I feel like it's more like thrills. It's Halloween thrills. It's like thrillers, right? It doesn't have to always be gore fest. Most of the movies I picked aren't super gory.
yeah. Yeah, I also am
So
not a
there.
big fan of gore. But okay, so let's alternate and you can go first and then we'll, bounce back and forth.
Okay, I'll go first. So I'll count down from 5 to 1. So I think for me, the first song I'm going to do is probably the scariest and the one of the more memorable experiences because I actually kept hearing about it. I was 11 years old and we had just moved back to Los Angeles, and my parents were upstairs and I'd heard about this movie called The Exorcist. And I really wanted to see it because I liked scary movies. And we had this thing back in the day called On Television. This was pre-cable, pre-video and DVD and all that. It was like, wow, we have movies on our television. And I sat downstairs by myself in the dark and watched The Exorcist, and it was freaking scary. It was really scary. But that was the first really spooky, scary thing I can remember at a young age. So that was
On
5.
they remade The Exorcist in the 90s or something. Did they?
I don't think so.
Okay.
They
Well,
may
then maybe.
they may have finally done a sequel, but I don't think they remade it.
Okay. Well, I know I saw an Exorcist film in the theater when I was like a teenager, I think.
Well, maybe it was like a 20th anniversary because I'm a lot older than you. Maybe it was like a reissue or something.
Yeah, maybe. Anyway, I remember choosing to go to this movie because the idea was that if you take a girl to go there, she'll be scared and like
Right, she'll grab
latch
you.
onto your arm.
Right.
But then I just ended up being extremely scared. I didn't show it though, of course.
Of course not. Mask that fear, Paul.
Yeah.
All right, what's your first?
All right, so I'm gonna go with Child's Play.
Ooh.
Oh, I think I have a better image than that one. But yeah, this one it was really scary for me when I was young. I didn't have any dolls that looked like that, but I think it was just I had a lot of toys, and then you kind of imagine like do these toys enjoy the way that you use them, and the Chucky character was really frightening, especially. I mean, that was also like not that recent. It's a pretty old movie, so like what they were able to do with the doll and having him run around and like really create a terrifying atmosphere with the doll, I think was
Mhm.
pretty interesting. Did you
Yeah.
watch this film?
Nope. I mean, I remember seeing it, but I wasn't that into it. I wasn't into the
Mhm.
doll thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if it holds up today, but it was definitely something back then. All right, your turn, John.
All right. So my next one is again going to be an older pick, but it's one of the spookiest, and there's a lot of funny stories about it. But the one story I remember the most was, and this is Psycho, and the story I remember most is my mom telling me how they like when that came out, she watched it and she could never be alone in the house again. Like it totally freaked her out and
For
could
the
never
rest
take
of
a
her life.
shower. Well, for a very long time, and she couldn't shower without anybody being there. And then of course when I was in film school, I took a class on Hitchcock, and I learned a lot more about how they shot that shower scene, and then counting the setups and all that, counting the shots, and so it became even more special later in life. But yeah, spooky, black and white. And it was also one of those things where I think around that time I learned that for people that kind of want to watch this stuff but they're kind of scared, that if you turn the music off, then you don't get as scared because it's actually the music that freaks you out. And if you think about some of the spookiest movies, it is the music, in fact.
Mhm. I mean, what
Yeah.
an iconic scene, that shower scene with the shadow and
Yeah.
yeah, when we're
Like
most
180
vulnerable.
shots or something. It's a
Oh,
crazy
wow.
number of shots.
Yeah, that definitely frightened me. I think I was already scared of being in the shower though before before watching that film. All right, so now I'm gonna pick a movie that I watched actually very recently.
Ooh.
That is Barbarian. If you
Ooh, I heard
haven't
great
seen
things about that.
Barbarian in the theater, I was very resistant to go, even though I heard so many amazing things about this film. But my friend was like, "I'm gonna go, but I'm only gonna watch it if you come with me." And so he forced me to go watch it with him, and I'm glad I did. It was pretty scary, but not like overwhelming. Um, Basically, it's about like a person goes and checks into their Airbnb in this really terrible neighborhood, and they don't know, like they check in and there's already somebody else there, and so there's a lot of like leading you to believe that this is the villain of the story, but it's not, and it just like continues down that path of like tricking you or making you believe
Right.
something that's not the actual thing. So it was really well done. I really enjoyed it, and I would recommend it if you want to watch something to make you not want to stay in Airbnbs anymore.
Yeah, I've read some amazing reviews about that. I think that is one that I will see. I just hear it was so well made.
Yeah.
So speaking of well made, I'm gonna jump to my number 3, and this is The Shining. Definitely one of the spookiest movies ever. One of the greatest movies ever. Stanley Kubrick, um, based on I believe Stephen King book, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, just amazing performances. Nicholson, Shelley Duvall, Scatman Crothers, and just spooky ass scenes, right? And you see that the kid riding the big wheels down the hallway, the twins. I mean, there's so many freaky moments in this movie, and for me, I'll never forget being in a theater and seeing that trailer. I don't know if you remember it, Paul, but it's basically it's like a long shot on an elevator at the end of a hall,
Mm-hmm.
and all of a sudden blood starts pouring out of the sides of the elevators and moving towards you, towards camera. So spooky. And my son's into Lego, and we were at a Lego convention last year, and there's some really clever people that could taken that scene and made that scene, the elevator with the blood coming out, and then Lego. I thought that was really cool. Anyway, that was really spooky, and it's amazing. It's hard for me to watch now because, again, having a kid, you see your son riding down the riding down the hallway on the big wheels. But yeah, amazing.
Don't do that. Yeah, also full of so many iconic scenes, right? And replicated so often in new age movies. I think I don't remember if this is true, but I thought I saw a clip saying that the scene where Jack Nicholson sticks his head through the scene that's in this poster was not planned. The Here's Johnny part.
Yeah, the Here's Johnny. He may there may be some ad lib there, but yeah, it's I don't remember the specifics you're leaning at there, but I know there was some improv there and some injuries. Like, you really did get hurt, really did get hit. Like, there's a lot of interesting history around the making of that film, and he goes into character, and yeah, he was out there.
All right. So I believe there's a new version of this film coming out soon, and that is The Ring. And this was also terrifying. That static video. Because of that static video, I could not like this was in the VHS days, right? And everything has static at some point when you're on VHS.
Yeah.
But I like would freak out every time I saw static on a TV after this movie because it was just like so scary. This was such a scary movie.
That was scary. I remember that one. Did you see Poltergeist?
I don't think
'Cause there's
so.
some
That came
static.
after, right?
No, it came before. Poltergeist was 82, I think. But there's this moment, right, where the little girl comes down and sits in front of the television. It's just static TV, and she
Yeah.
starts communicating with the other side. Yeah, spooky.
Kids don't know about the static. Terrifying.
It's spooky stuff.
All right.
All right, ready for my next one?
Mm-hmm.
All right. My number 2 is Silence of the Lambs. Very creepy, but again, another movie just all around well done. If I'm not mistaken, I think it won Best Picture. Yeah, just an amazing movie and great performances. Of course, Anthony Hopkins, and I can't remember the line, but the whole thing where he's making those crazy noises with his mouth, and then he's talking about having Chianti while he's eating. Yeah, spooky, really good, really good. That one I'd watch again.
I've only seen pieces of it because every time I watched a piece of it, it would be too scary. I would just stop.
He's so good. He's
Also,
so
this
creepy.
poster is just freaky as well. All
Yeah.
right. Now I'm going to go back to the motherland. I don't know if this fully qualifies as a horror movie, but
Oh
it
yeah.
definitely
Good
is
call.
gruesome and just like
Yeah.
in your face, like hitting you with scene after scene brutality. And I'm not going to spoil it, but like the twist is pretty hard on your mind. So it's I definitely recommend it though. I think the American version is still pretty good, but the Korean version I would still say is much better. Um,
For those of you listening and not watching, Paul's choice is Old Boy.
oh yes, Old Boy. Mhm.
Amazing. And he's got a new film out that's getting rave reviews. Of course, I'm going to blank on the title. Is it Decision to Leave, maybe?
Yes, Decision to Leave. Yeah, I've been hearing that. And he said something along the lines of like he has been making films a certain way for so long, which is like very adult and like bloody and like gruesome. And he was like, maybe I should make a film like for more people to be able to watch. That was his mindset. Like, well, there not a lot of people can watch my movies because they're a bit too much. And so
That's funny.
Decision to Leave was like his attempt, a successful attempt, I'm guessing, at making something for a broader audience.
Yeah, it's supposed to be great. I'm going to try and see it this weekend. I think it just opened Friday in two theaters. This last Friday. It's in LA. But yeah, Old Boy. I showed Old Boy at AFI. I think at one of my festivals. I think it was AFI when I was there in the late '90s. What was do you remember the year? Was it like 98, 99, something like that?
The year that Old Boy came out,
Yeah,
uh, 2003.
2003. So it must not have been there. Maybe it was one of the other festivals because I left AFI in 2000. But I remember showing it. Yeah, amazing. Good call. Okay, you ready for my number one?
I'm ready. Oh, I didn't
Drum roll.
realize we were going like in order of the topics.
Where's your fancy sound machine with the drum roll?
Oh,
Um, so
wait,
so
wait,
this
wait,
one's.
wait, wait.
Do you have it?
I gotta find the drum.
Oh, so you can see it behind me. It's Jaws. So this is kind of, it's not straight up horror, but it's in that genre, I think somehow. Um,
Definitely. Yeah.
it's spooky as all get out, and for those of us born on the beach, or I should say on the coastline,
My God.
um, you
Yeah.
know, the question is always from the parents, like, when do you let your kids see that? Because they're just not going to want to surf or swim or get back in the ocean. And my mom would not let me see this movie. I think I want to say I was like 13 or 14, and it had already been out a few years, and everybody else had already seen it. And I wasn't living in Los Angeles at the time when it came out, but we moved back to LA shortly after that. But yeah, really scary. But what's cool about this movie is not only is it the movie that put Spielberg on the map for us cinephiles, but just the performances are outstanding, and it's the music, John Williams, and the soundtrack, just again really spooky with the music. Something's coming. A few jump scares, but just the tension that he manages to mount there, and all the history around how hard it was to make this movie, and how well it did. I mean, it literally was, most people would say, that the first quote blockbuster movie. It was just blew the doors off of anything before it. But the other thing that I found out later that I thought was interesting is, because how you, when you're in the film business and you learn about development and how all these movies are adapted, and they come from books, and a lot of movies come from books, and then they're made for the screen. But this book was optioned while it was prior to the publication or the printing of the book, so that the studio was involved in the actual development of the cover. So the
Oh,
poster of the book and the poster of the cover are the same, and that's not always the case. because usually, the film studios kind of get the whole marketing plan together and figure out how to make the movie, as saleable as it can be. But I thought that was kind of interesting, and yeah, a lot of fun stories around that movie, and it's still one of those movies I try and watch once a year. Just so good.
And I'm detecting a theme in all of your choices in that they're all kind of iconic in a certain way, either from a scene or a piece of dialogue or a piece of music. Like, I mean, people will do that even now, and they don't even realize like it's because of that.
And there's a funny scene too. I saw in one of those documentaries about Spielberg, where he's standing behind the piano, and John Williams is there, and this is before Jaws came out, and he just plays those two notes, dana dana, and Steven's like, I don't know. Like, well, we know now. Worked out. All
That's
right,
awesome.
what's next for
Well,
you?
I feel like this is a bit anticlimactic because I was not going in order of like 5 to 1, but this is still a good film that I really liked, and that is, I guess, American Psycho.
Ooh.
I like American Psycho because it's such a like it focuses so much on just Christian Bale's character, right? Like it's like
Mm-hmm.
following him intensely. You're not really seeing much else happening in the movie. It's just like this dude, this freaking crazy dude is is like, oh, he's so well put together, and then slowly you're like unpacking him and like, but it's also like believable in
Mm-hmm.
the way of like people like that, and just makes you question like what else do I not know about people that I meet in everyday life that are just like so messed up that we have no
Mm-hmm.
idea about. And could be you, John, could be me.
Could be.
Who knows? You know? So that is my fifth pick, Christian Bale, amazing actor, obviously, and was wasted in Thor, which is a shame. But all great actors have to be wasted in a Marvel movie at some point.
He's made a lot of good movies. Wasn't he in Empire of the Sun? Did you ever see that?
What was that movie?
It was Spielberg, and it was
Yes, it was
I want
Christian
to
Bale.
say I want to say World War II, Behind Enemy Lines, John Malkovich.
Oh, in
I, re-
Japan. Mhm.
I remember this. It was just such a striking poster. This big giant sun that's like
Yeah, with
above the
the
horizon,
feather.
and gray sky behind it, and I think barbed wire, because and then you see this kid like with an airplane, like a silhouette. I just remember the poster was so striking. But yeah, really well done. And he plays this kid that gets separated from his mother and ends up in this camp. And Malkovich is like the leader of the clan, smartest one of the bunch, figuring out how to finagle all the best things from people and get what he needs. And he's got the best spot and the best bed, and he takes to Bale. And yeah, a lot of people haven't seen that because it was so long ago. But yeah, it was really well done and underrated. There it is. Nice.
Yeah, I have not seen that film. I'll probably go watch it now. But
Yeah, it's really good.
you don't really see posters like this anymore.
No, it was so good. I had it on my wall, my first apartment in Venice.
Yeah, all the
I don't know what
posters, like
happened to it.
if they made this poster today, it would just be like Christian Bale's face, like 90% of the photo.
Right. Well, this is fun, Paul. I'm hoping that some of these titles will be revived by people, right? Some of them have already been seen, but others that maybe you haven't seen. And
Mhm.
igems.tv has a bunch of Halloween collections. We had some great picks, like the scariest of all time and the most profitable of all time. We're gonna release. It's kind of interesting to think about some of these movies that were made for next to nothing, like Blair Witch and Paranormal Activity, and these movies just you know made millions and millions of dollars off a minimal spend. And so it's we did some interesting research on that. So definitely check them out.
Last minute fun fact: after Scream, the studio that made I Know What You Did Last Summer rushed that movie as fast as they possibly could, trying to ride the wave of Scream. I'm
Run
surprised
away.
we didn't say Scream, but maybe it's just not our type of film.
It's not my
Um,
thing.
but that film, I Know What You Did Last Summer, came out 10 months after Scream released. So think about how fast they
That
pushed
is
that
fast.
film forward.
Yeah.
And they were actually able to successfully ride that wave. They did really well. Um, and I think that's one of the things about horror is I think you can be more liberal with like less pre-production, a little bit more like freestyling. So yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of the movies, I mean, just again back to this article, is they're made for next to nothing, comparatively speaking. A lot of these movies, you think about, Saw and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Friday the 13th, even Halloween. I mean, Halloween, they say it might be finally over, but who knows? They've been saying that for 15 years. But what is it? Halloween the 13th version or something now that's in
Halloween
theaters.
Ends is
Halloween
what it's called.
ends.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I remember the first one when that came out. That was really spooky. That was really spooky. And another fun fact, John Carpenter did the music. The director did the music. And that's a
Wow.
spooky, spooky theme.
Is
Like
that
when
the
you're in
one
high
that's
school.
like
Yeah, it's really spooky. We should have actually pulled up some. Maybe we'll see if we can do some of that in post. See if we can pull up some of these soundtracks, because that's the fun part of some of these movies. Freak everyone out.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. All right. Well, that was fun. Maybe we'll try to do this more often. Do like a Thanksgiving. Are there even Thanksgiving movies?
There's some fun movies around eating for sure. I've already got a
Mm.
handful in my head.
And one really good one that seems to be coming out soon.
Don't give it
That's
away.
yeah,
Don't give it away.
great. All right. That is
All
the
right,
end of
Paul.
our episode. Thank you, John, as always. And if you want to find out about more great horror movies, check out igems.tv. And we will see you next time.
All right. Thanks, Paul.